Hey, it's Jeff from Home Renovision DIY here today. Welcome to my new kitchen. We are installing countertops, but not quartz and granite. Today we're going back to the old school, the good old-fashioned, reliable, cost-effective laminate countertops. I've got some formica finishes here, so we're gonna go talk today about the product, how to measure it, how to order it, right? How to make sure you're not getting taken, you get a good deal. We're also gonna talk about how much it's gonna cost, and then we're gonna show you how to install it. So there's a lot of information in here that if you're gonna do your own DIY renovation in your kitchen, whether it's replacement or a new project like this, all the information is gonna be very, very important so you have a successful outcome. So let's get right into this sucker. I've got two pieces of countertop today, one for each side of my stove, boom, which is going here. Now, we're gonna have the sink for our kitchen in the island. The island is gonna be quartz, and the reasoning behind this is I get to sell my house with a quartz kitchen island with the overhang bar, undermount sink, and I save all my money by putting a formica top on the back. This is the utility area. It's where your blenders go, your other appliances, right? And you don't want to have quartz next to your stove in case you have to set a pot down in a quick hurry and destroy your quartz. If I'm going to wreck something with an accident, it's going to be something that I can buy for 200 bucks and replace in 5 minutes. So, bottom line is, if you have a formica top, you can replace and reinstall a new one without doing any renovation in your kitchen whatsoever, in most cases. So this is why this is so effective. It's why it's so common. It's why it's been used all over North America for many, 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 many years, and all through Europe as well. So no matter where you live, this information today is probably going to be beneficial to you. So I'm a big fan of formica just because basically there's a manufacturing facility not too far from here. So I've been using them on my sites for a long, long time. Now there's other manufacturers of this kind of product, but basically it's just a press board with laminate layers on top of it. And the reason it's been so popular for the last 50, 60, 70, 90, 100 years is because it is cost-effective performance, right? How else are you gonna get a countertop for $400 on 10 feet of wall? It's just not gonna happen. So in recent years, the manufacturing processes have been getting a lot more competitive because people are spending more money on quartz and granite. So now there are actually some really amazing options. Like you can do a super wide formica top with a waterfall effect. You can get writable surfaces, so you can use your laminates and make doors and stuff like that. They've got all kinds of really cool colors. You've got a lot of different finishes that look and act and feel like natural stone. So if you're gonna be shopping for countertops, take a second and consider the option. Do some research. Because if you put a quartz top on the front like we are, and then utility tops on the back, you can save yourself thousands of dollars, still have an amazing look, and have great performance. I think it's a win-win. So let's get into this. My process for measuring the countertop, it's really kind of easy. First, you gotta install all your base cabinets. Before you go to the store to order countertops, remember, it's an exact science. You have very little flexibility once you're on site. And let me get into that. So this piece of cabinet here, it's actually finished up against the stove, and it's finished going into the fridge. Now, the way that I'm building, I have flexibility with my fridge location. So I have a little bit of flexibility to move it left or right to make it nice and tight fit up against the stove here, because you don't want a big gap. The stove, you want the counters basically sitting right against it. You're looking for 1/16 on either side, which means everything's got to be square. When you're measuring, you want to use a square like this up against your wall, all right, and check if your cabinets are square to the wall, right? Very important. Is your wall straight, or does it have a bow? Because if you have a straight cabinet coming out like this on a bowed wall and then a straight cabinet going back like this, the back of the cabinet might be the right measurement, but the front will be wide open and ugly. So you really got to pay attention to all those details when you're measuring, and make sure that the front and the back are both going to be closed against your appliances. You can do that by dropping a laser line and measuring off the line. It's not that difficult. But in our situation, like in a lot of cases, it's relatively straight, so we're going to be okay, right? We're going to be installing a tile backsplash, and that gives us our 1/4 inch gap, so we can twist things a little bit to close up the gap. We're going to be just fine. Now, when you go to measure your countertop, they want to know a few basic things. One, is it a standard size cabinet, right? So they cut the top standard at 25.5 inches from the back wall, so you have a nice overhang on the front, so it covers all the doors and knobs, all right? It's a pretty standard practice. You can get them wider. If you want, you can get a bar top, which means it doesn't have a backsplash, okay? It's just flat like the ones we've ordered. And you can have them extended and hang over, finished on both ends, and you can make bar tops as well. Here we got a standard situation. So what I did is I ordered the right width plus a little bit of overhang, okay, for each side. So then I can adjust this panel a little tighter this way or open it up a little bit once my stove is in place. So I go and order it. I say, yes, I like the standard width. And then they manufacture my countertop. They finish both ends for me. All right, let me just tack this up. And when they manufacture it, everybody has a way of protecting the outside corners. Some people wrap it in, bubble wrap and packing tape. This company just uses leftovers and staple it in place so that during shipping, you don't damage your product. Now, the way I like to operate is I like to go to the store and go with the supply only option, which means I'm only I'm paying them to manufacture the product. I'm going there in my own truck and picking it up and delivering it to site myself. And that saves me a fair amount of money because I'm taking the responsibility for not just the install, but the delivery. So all I've got to do is make sure it's not damaged by the time it leaves the store. And that solves a lot of headaches. Okay. I'm also dealing with brand new cabinets, and these are IKEA cabinets. So instead of a thick wooden rail across here, it's just this little metal bar holding the cabinet together. So I ask for what's called build-up. And that means I'm not just getting the counter, but I'm also getting pieces of 1x3, okay, picture framed all around the side so that I've got a screwing surface here from underneath. Now, in some cases, you don't need build-up, but in most cases, it's pretty standard. In a lot of cases, when you go to order your countertops, you're gonna find that the name on the door is not the same as the name of the person that makes the countertops. So in our area, a company called Formica actually applies the laminate on the countertop with the bullnose, okay? And they have different options for that. And then what happens is the measurements that I'm supplying goes to the countertop shop. They'll take a 12-foot piece, they'll cut it down, and they'll add the ends and the buildup on the sides. They do the finishing work on it, but this is already supplied. So because of that, they have usually limited supply in stock, and it can take a couple of weeks sometimes for an order to get in before they can even cut it. Strange enough. Here we go. Ba-da-dum. It's almost done. The install on this is actually kind of simple. Really all we have to do, I'll just go like this, is I have to put a screw in each one of these slots on these metal bars, and it goes into the buildup, which is stapled in place. And after that, most of what's happening here is gravity. So we're gonna set this one in place. Like I said, it has two finished edges, and I can go anywhere from 0 to hero on this one, okay, so that I can make sure my stove is nice and tight. The second piece is a little trickier. It goes up against a wall, so I'm gonna have an angle that I'm gonna have to cut for sure. And I bought it a little extra long so that I can make sure that when I'm on site installing, I've got the option to get my center line perfect. All right. Okay, now the buildup is all put on with staples. So when you're taking off the blocks, you have to make sure that you're prying against the buildup or you're gonna just rip everything apart, okay? You can see, here's some of the offcuts, the different colors, textures, and patterns, different gloss. And every one of these different kinds of finishes has a different price point. So make sure that you're paying attention to the price point when you're shopping, because you can get Formica countertop for like around $20 a linear foot, which is the whole piece. But then they're gonna charge you a little fee for doing the end cuts, okay? And then of course there's always taxes. That's how you get your total price, plus the build-up fee. So when you're all done, you might be $30 or $40 a linear foot. And when you compare that to the cost of a natural stone, they're gonna advertise stone as low as $55 a square foot. But the truth is, it's 2 feet deep. So they're charging actually 110 a linear foot instead of 30, all right? Plus all of the extra fees associated with prepping that stone. So your initial cost, what they're advertising, is not gonna be your final bill. So be prepared for that, because natural stone will usually have $20 a square foot in up costs for polishing and cutting and So you end up with something that gets to be $200 a linear foot instead of something that's 30. That's why this is so effective. Even if this countertop only lasts 10 years, and it should last 40 or 50, even if you want to change it out every 10 years because you want a new color, you can do that. And over 100 years, it'll be cheaper than buying granite once. All right, so I love renovating an 1880 farmhouse because every time I go to do anything, every task is the most difficult it can possibly be. So it gives us an opportunity to help you out solving all of your problems you're gonna run into, because I get every problem that exists, right? So right here, we put the countertops on. We haven't screwed anything down yet. 36 and 2/16 is what I wanna be. Now I've got a perfect measurement on the back. We're ready for this, here we go. Big surprise, 35 3/4. Wow. So I've got 2 pieces of countertop that are wedged like this, like I was talking about in the beginning. So I'll just draw this out. I've got a long piece here, okay, and I've got another piece here, and it's on a bowed wall. So I got the perfect distance on the back, and it's actually, hang on a second. Oops, that's the inside. This is the outside wall. All right, it's actually bowed outwards. All right, so I've got the 36 perfect here and 35 3/4 here. My bad. Anyway, the only way that I can fix this is by rotating the countertops. Okay, makes sense? So I can take this countertop and I can open it up like this. And you'll see now that I'm 35 3/4 and I'm 36. That's pretty dramatic, and I don't have a tile big enough to cover that gap. But what I can do is I can take one of my finished tile. Oh, hashtag spoiler alert. Here we go. I'm going to stick it on the wall. All right. Now, I know that when I install this tile plus adhesive, even if it doesn't make direct contact with that countertop, it's going to be really, really close. Okay. And so that gap, I'm going to say I'm good up to a quarter, even a little bit more. All right. Now I'm going to do the same with the other counter, and let's remeasure. Okay, so there's a quarter plus a bit. Okay. Whew. Let's remeasure our countertop here now. Okay. There we go. Now they're the same measurement. That one's 35. We're going to call that 15/16. 35 7/8. Well, that's pretty darn close there, Pilgrim. Let's see. Yeah, I got room for just a little bit more of an adjustment. Yeah. So with adhesive, that'll work. Here we go. 35 7/8. 35 7/8. Whew. So now I've got them positioned where this is now parallel, and that's my goal. So now I've also got to install moving left to get this in position. Because right now my overhang, 1 1/4. Over here, I'm only 5/8. Okay, so now we have the positioning, the angle on the back wall. The next thing we have to do is find out where's our center line, and then we have to move these 2 counters so that visibly from the front, we have the same overhang when we're finished. So we'll measure off the back wall. And this is exactly 37, oh, of course it's 5/8. It's always my favorite number to cut in half. Right? I'm gonna call that 3/4 actually. Now, here's a great tip if you're not good with math. Take your measurement, 37 3/4, and hold it right down there at the end, the beginning of your tape. And you can go up here and you can find the middle. Turns out to be 18 7/8. Okay, just bend that till you can see where the line is. 18 7/8. If you want to double check, you can just add them together. All right, 14/8 is 8, 9, 10, 6. 6/8, that's 3/4. So we know we're right? 10, 20, 36 plus the 1. Boom, we're good. So I'm actually gonna go 18 7/8 from the edge. There's my center line, okay? Then I'm gonna measure. I got 17 1/2, 18 1/4, so I'm off. 17 1/2, 18 1/4, I'm out 3/4. So I'm gonna move both of these over 3/8. Okay, this one over 3/8. Okay, 17 7/8 here. Okay, I'm liking that. So this will be my new minus the 16th for the gap for the stove. 17 7/8. All right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just put a tape line on the wall so that I don't mess this up. And then I'm going to go down underneath this cabinet and screw it in place because this is going to be a finish resting place. So before I cut the other one, I'm going to get this screwed in place just so we can make sure it's not moving around. Now, real important to remember, most formica countertops come 1.5 inches. Double check your measurement and make sure you get a screw that's at least 1/4 inch shorter than the total amount of material here. And if you're going through a wood top on your counter into another wood top, so you have your wood structure and then let's say you have a wood piece here, you're going to want to measure the total height of that minus that full 1/4 inch. And you might even want to buy a screw that has a nice flat head on it so it won't go into the wood. There is nothing worse than the feeling of screwing a screw through the top of this countertop. Or if you get too close even, you'll get a bump because all of that material is pushed up. So this is why the IKEA countertop is kind of cool, because I'm putting a screw when I have a metal piece here that's going to automatically stop the screw from going too far. Perfect every time. And just a quick note here, remember my advice, always have all your material on site way in advance. If I didn't have the tile here, I wouldn't know what my gap on the back could be to help solve this problem. You don't want to guess when you're installing your countertops, because if you're guessing and you cut it and install it, maybe you cut too much. You really don't know. So save the headaches, order everything, have it on site, be able to grab things and say, you know, what's the thickness? It's just good practice. Now, always put the first screw in somewhere comfortable like up front, because the back screws a little more awkward and you want to make sure this isn't going to be moving around on you. Just a note, you might find it necessary to screw it and then reverse it and then put your weight on it again to hold it in place. Make sure you don't forget to screw the back. It's crucial. When they make these countertops, they usually have a bit of a bow, and then when they set them down, if you don't screw down the back, you're going to go do your tile backsplash following that curve. It'll make a mess of it. All right. All right, so my system for getting this perfect is actually involves using some painter's tape. Yeah, I use painter's tape, but not when I'm painting. Here we go. We're going to take care of this now. We got a measurement. Now we've got our angle. Just confirming that we have our position in place. I want the measurement front and back to be exactly the same. So our angle here is, measurement, sorry, is 35 5/8. 35 5/8. Bam. I'm really happy with that. So now this is fixed. These are parallel, but the gap here needs to be 36 plus a 16th on each side. So I'm looking for a 36 1/8 measurement. So in order to get that, I have to make an adjustment. Now these are exactly the same measurement, 35 5/8. Okay, so I need 36 1/8. Okay, in order to get there, I've got 3 more 8s, 4 more 8s, that's a 1/2 inch. So what I want to do is move down to the other end and I'll show you how to get that perfect. We need to take off a 1/2 inch. And you see at the back we have contact, at the front we already have a gap. So all we're going to do is scribe the 1/2 inch. We're just going to set the tape in the corner and I'm going to mark where my 1/2 inch is. All right. Yeah, that looks pretty good. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my carpenter pencil. If I put it against the wall, it's not thick enough, so I'm going to use my middle finger here to set the depth of my scribe and pinch the pencil in place. There we go, 0 to hero. Okay? Now, I'm going to put this back and I'm going to run this tape right across that edge, which is actually contoured with the wall because there's no tile going to go here. We want to get this absolutely perfect because we don't have any tile going against it. So I'm just going to press down a couple inches at a time, follow that pencil line. There's my bow. If I can get that within a 32nd of an inch, that's ideal. In order to follow that line, I have to cut from the surface here with my skill saw. So the reason I'm taping this down is to help resist the laminate from chipping. Okay? Also helpful to use a finishing blade that's brand new. Mine isn't, so hopefully this works out. Okay, so I'm just taking my pencil and helping to increase the contrast here from the tape and the countertop. It'd be a lot easier with I'm wearing these safety glasses to keep an eye on what the heck is going on. I think I just cut my finger. Yep. Careful, this stuff is sharp. All right. That stuff's in the way. Wear some safety glasses for this, folks. Laminate chips are actually quite dangerous. If that stabs you in the eye, you're going to get infected, and that'll be a nasty mess. So, using the old beast of a skill saw again, I'm going to pull the guard out of the way so I can see what's going on. Because I'm following a curve, I actually want to watch where my blade is making contact with my material. I can't follow up here because this is curving. All right, so it takes a little bit more getting close and personal here to get a perfect cut. Well, I think that might just be pretty much perfect. Remember, you only get to do this once. So if you're at all concerned about your angle or your scribing skills, feel free to cut it a little long on purpose and then double check your work before you cut it a second time. Here we go, let's try this out. All right, so the cut isn't that bad. I'm just gonna throw a little bit of my favorite Band-Aid on there, just to close that gap. Keep it from getting infected. There we go. Boom. My first aid kit. All right, now listen, remember, this is really sharp stuff, so I want to get my pencil line off here now. I could use a wet sponge or a dry sponge. I'm doing a dry sponge because I actually want to round that edge just a little bit, okay? I don't want to be slicing my finger when I do my caulking joint later. That's much better. Let's see if it closes. And then we open up the joint. Okay, so that's my finished job. Now, that's pretty good. Let's go see if this measurement's any good. Should be 36 1/8. 36, 3/16. Okay. Maybe I'm a little bit over too far, but that's okay. That's what IKEA kitchens are for. Now I'm just gonna take my cabinet, slide it on that rail, 1/16 of an inch, and make this perfect. Love it. But my gap is exactly the same, 36 1/4. Love it. Let's confirm. Yes. That's the one. Okay, there we go. We're throwing a couple screws. Wow. Yeah, there we go. Be careful, you don't have a longer screw than you need. Now, for everybody out there who's going to be installing a sink in your formica countertop, if you're doing a top mount, that's right, I said if, because nowadays you can actually do an undermount formica sink. You're gonna have to have the sink template for the factory when they cut it, because they actually router out all of the wood right up to the laminate, okay, to create a position to install that sink. It's a really interesting process. I haven't really done it on a job yet because I'm really not quite sure about the finished look, but if you're into that sort of thing, it's a possibility. Otherwise, if you have a template, all you do is you put your template on the counter. Make sure that you're giving yourself clearance to get past the inside of your cabinet, okay? So you actually want to measure from the back side of your rail here, all right, which is about here. You don't want your sink coming in front of that, okay? So you just throw down some tape. You would draw your template. Drill a hole big enough for a jigsaw. Drop this in, cut your hole, done. If you want to see that done, we did a video actually in this kitchen a few years back. We actually installed a different sink in a existing formica countertop. Again, it's an old house and the cabinet was too small, so every situation you might run into, you can find. You can click the video right here and you can go watch that video as well. Other than that, all I've got to say is we're going to have another video of us installing the quartz and doing all the plumbing. So make sure that if you're interested in kitchen videos and that kind of renovation, you can just click the link right here. Follow along in our 1880s kitchen farmhouse renovation. See you then.